I'm doing a test.
Okay.
Okay, today is March 13th, 2010. We're at the Children's Coalition Incorporated. Here we go. The person being interviewed is?
Mark Elliott.
And the interviewer is?
Junie Edward.
Go ahead, Junie. Ask the questions.
Okay. What was your war and branch of service?
I wasn't involved in any wars, but my branch of service was the United States Navy.
When were you born?
October of 1960.
And, oh, the thing that I skipped. Okay, all right.
Today is March 13th, 2010, and we are interviewing from the Children's Coalition. Today our interviewer is going to be Junie Edward, and we're interviewing Mark Elliott.
And the videographer is Carlton Cartwright.
So what is your date of birth?
Date of birth is October 16th, 1960.
What war and branch of service did you serve in?
Okay, I wasn't involved in any wars, but my branch of service was the United States Navy.
What was your rank?
It was an E5, personnelman second class.
Where did you serve?
I served aboard, my last duty station was aboard the USS Forrestal. Prior to that, I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, and also Meridian, Mississippi.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I volunteered.
Where were you living at the time before you enrolled?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
Why did you choose to join in the Navy?
Actually, a friend of mine enlisted, and I thought it would be a pretty good idea. You know, they were talking about traveling, and I wanted to do some traveling, so the Navy was the best option.
Why did you pick the Navy over the other 5 branches?
Because, well, I like the ocean for one. That's where I find my peace. But the travel, I knew I would be able to get a lot of travel in. And I was actually able to put my foot on 6 continents before I was 21 years old, so it worked out okay.
Can you name your most memorable experience of traveling?
Wow. Probably going into the Mediterranean from the Atlantic. I was able to see Africa on one side and Europe on the other side, Morocco and Spain. I think that was for a kid going in, seeing that was an awesome experience.
How old were you at the time?
I was 18.
Do you remember what it felt like being able to see those 2 continents?
Wow. It was like, wow, yeah, I'm doing this.
How was your training in boot camp?
Hard. It wasn't what I expected. I thought it was going to be, you know, when you join the military, you see these clean uniforms and they talk about the travel, but they don't tell you what you have to go through to actually become initiated in it. It was pretty hard. You know, I was a kid, and the physical training was pretty hard. Educational wise, I learned a lot. You know, not just about how to be a soldier, how to become a warrior, but the history behind the Navy and the United States period. You learn a lot about history, military history, some things that I didn't know.
Would you like to name any of those things? Something that surprised you, maybe?
Wow. It's been 35 years, so I don't know if I even remember anything that would have surprised me or not.
How did you get through your training?
A lot of hard work and a lot of prayer. I was kind of a rebellious spirit at the time, and you had these guys in your face screaming constantly, and I really, I was a rebellious spirit. So I actually didn't think I was going to make it through boot camp. I thought I would leave. And I guess by the grace of God, I stayed, and it turned into one of the most memorable and best experiences of my life.
Do you know what it was that drove you to stay?
Well, not to be a loser and called a quitter. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to be defeated.
Do you remember when you first arrived and, that first feeling and your expectations, and what exactly were you expecting to get out of serving?
I didn't know when I got to boot camp. Well, I rode the train from Miami to Orlando, and what they did when I got off the train, the first words that I heard was, "You're now in the United States Navy," and the acronym for Navy is "Never Again Volunteer Yourself." So I was scared. At that point, I became scared, and I didn't know what to expect, and everything at that point was new and surprising and adventurous, because it was an adventure. I was so scared that my military bearing was excellent, and they made me a flag bearer because of that.
Were there any wars going on around the time that you served?
Well, it was no wars going on, but what happened was I was involved in a conflict with the Iranian hostage crisis, and it wasn't ever declared a war or anything like that, but there was a lot of little skirmishes going on behind it.
So did you get to see combat?
No, I never saw combat. Actually, when you're on board ship, you very seldom see combat. Physical combat, you might hear guns going off, you might see guns going off, rounds being fired from the ship, but you actually never engage yourself in combat.
During what years were you serving?
From 1978 to 1982.
Did you ever think that maybe you would see war and have to serve?
That's a good question. When I joined, I didn't look at it. I didn't know that I was being trained to be a soldier, and that could in turn into me going to war. I didn't expect for that to happen, and when it did happen, a lot of little skirmishes were going on. We were in Libya, off the coast of Libya, and there was some skirmishes going on, and that's when it really set in that you're a soldier. I thought it was just another job when I joined, when I enlisted. I had not looked at the aspect that we might be going to war.
What was it like leaving your family behind to join?
I was glad. Actually, my father was a cop. He was one of the first black policemen in the city of West Palm Beach, and my mother was an educator. So I had a pretty strict household, and that was a way for me to break out immediately and hit the races, you know what I mean, into adulthood. I missed them after a while, but initially I was just glad to get out of the house and be on my own.
You being so excited to leave, were there ever times that when you did hear from them, you wish that you could come back?
Not really wish that I could come back, but wish that my family could be in some of the places with me that I was able to travel to.
Can you remember how many countries you visited?
I put my foot on 6 continents. You would say Japan, China, the Philippines, Spain, Italy, France, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. I went into inland Africa. Kenya. I have a thing with, it's like Kenya's calling me right now. Nairobi, Egypt, Morocco, and some other places that I don't even remember. Greece, where else? And all over the Caribbean. So I've been to a lot of places. Australia, Bali.
Did you get to see any of the great landmarks, like the the pyramids?
Yes, I did. I went into Egypt and saw the pyramids. Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Any other great landmarks?
Eiffel Tower. Where is it in London? Something in London, I remember. A lot of places, a lot of things.
How did you guys stay entertained between traveling to all those places?
Well, I was on an aircraft carrier, which held 5,700 people. That's how large it is. 3 football fields long, 13 stories down. Superstructure goes up like 13 stories, 12 or 13. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. But there was so much to do. It was a floating city, so you did not get bored. Long working hours. We worked from 14 to 16 hours a day at sea. So, but then I'm a musician, so they had the band room, and then they had the weights. They had concerts going on in the hangar deck and on the flight deck. You know, so it was things to do. Constantly something to do. In between studies also.
Did you get to study?
Yeah, I did. That was the way you advanced. You had to do you had to meet a certain criteria as far as your studies go. So I did. I didn't do any college work. I wish I had of, and I had time and had the opportunity, but I chose to play my guitar.
Do you remember any friends that you made, since there are so many people, any lifelong friendships?
Yeah, actually, I just contacted a guy by the name of Jeffrey O'Donnell. We went through boot camp together, and we ended up in a school together and in Norfolk, Virginia, which was my first duty station. And he's a resident of Delray Beach. I happened to find him on Facebook. And I mean, we were really close, and we had a lot to talk about. You know, we did a lot of traveling together, a lot. He was my friend.
What was your specific assignment to do on the ship?
I was a personnelman, which entails the upkeep of enlisted men's service records. I was a male secretary, basically.
Was that what you were expecting to do when you joined?
Yeah, I went in with a guaranteed A school, and the reason I was able to get the guarantee, or I asked for it, is because what happens is a lot of guys enlist and they don't have a guaranteed school, and they end up doing menial jobs regardless of what their educational level might be or what their aptitude might be. They end up doing menial jobs when they could be over here in an office, but yet they're out here pulling lines. So a recruiter told me about it, and I made them guarantee me a school so that I could use that when I got out versus, you know, pulling ropes.
Do you recall any particular events that may be funny or sad or provoke some sort of emotion?
A few of them. I think the first day I got on board ship, I left. I came back from came off of leave, and went to Orlando. Flew into Orlando and then over to Jacksonville. My ship pulled out that same day, and we lost 2 planes. That same day the ship pulled out, and that was kind of, you know, kind of a wake-up call. And kind of a shock too at the same time. You know, you don't see these things on the news. And after that, we were losing a lot of ship. I saw a lot of people get killed. You know, when I think back, and even with these wars going on now, and that was during a non-war time. With these wars going on now, we lose a lot of people. Nobody ever knows about it. You know, it's kind of sad.
What did you guys get to do when you were on leave?
Well, party. It was a party. Yeah, every port that we hit, we kind of tore the town up. Sailors are known to be wild and rambunctious, and we were exactly that. You know, you're out to sea for weeks at a time, confined, and all of a sudden, it's like a dog with a chain on him, with a leash on, and he's chained in the yard. And all of a sudden, you take the chain off, and he's just off running. And there's a bunch of kids. Most of the people that I was stationed with were young. Most of the people on board ship were young. There was some older guys there, you know, and even they were excited and happy to hit land and chase women. That was a big thing, chasing the women.
Do you have any memorabilia saved from those events?
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures. I have my first pea coat. I think I still have my sea bag. I'm not sure. But I have some things, especially the pictures. I was just looking at them the other day and just amazed. You know, now I'm gray. I was a kid. I was literally a kid, your age. And now, you know, I've got gray hair in my head and I'm looking back at all this. And it's like, wow.
Do you have any photographs with you?
No, I should have brought some, but I didn't.
When you guys got to go on leave, did you guys get to go on the continent, like the different continents, or?
Yes, we pulled, well, being in the Navy, you have what they call port of call. So you're out at sea for 3 or 4 days, 5 days, maybe a week or two at a time, and then you'll hit another port. And that was the basic travel. You could take leave, which you would get 30 days, and most times when I took leave, I would come stateside. If I was overseas, I would come stateside, I would come home. And that goes back to the first question you asked me. Yeah, I did miss my family.
Which was your favorite place on one of the ports?
One of my favorites, I have a lot of favorites, but one of them was Benidorm, Spain. You know, imagine this city that has 2,500 people in it during the winter time. In the summertime, it's like 250,000 people there. And it sits on a mountainside, and it's just beautiful, beautiful.
Did you get to experience the culture of people?
Yes, and from foods, different languages with the food I've eaten. I don't think it's any food that I haven't eaten or I wouldn't try. I really remember the foods a lot. The worst Italian food that I had was in Italy. I was so used to Americanized Italian food that when I got to Italy, the food tasted bad. It was, you know, so I had to acquire a taste for it. But now I only eat like really good Italian food. I remember that.
Did you remember maybe your favorite cuisine?
A Filipino dish. It's kind of a weird dish, but it's called balut. It was half developed duck eggs. And it was really good, kind of meaty, kind of fleshy, but with a foul taste to it. Fowl, F-O-W-L, not F-O-U-L. F-O-W-L, bird, avian.
Did you ever think that, or were you ever hoping that you would finish service early, or did you want to prolong it?
That's another good question. I didn't know. I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do in life, and I actually extended for a year to see if I wanted to make military service a career, and I chose not to. I wanted to be a musician, which I did for years afterwards, but yeah, I thought about it.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Yes. I flew in to West Palm Beach from Mayport. I left the ship And I was really sad that I left the ship because I was leaving a lot of friends, people that I would never see again, that I knew I would never see, ever see again in life, you know. But the small world, I run into them occasionally, a few occasionally. But yeah, I remember, and that was March 23rd, 82. Never forget the date. I left ship, and a group of guys took me to the airport, and it was grown men, tears coming down. Yeah, pretty sad.
When your last day was approaching, did you ever think of maybe extending it a little bit longer?
No, I was pretty definitive about what I wanted to do, you know.
Where were you before you flew into West Palm?
I was in Jacksonville, Mayport,
Okay.
on board ship.
What did you do after you arrived?
Took about a 6-month hiatus, vacation. Just didn't do anything for like 6 months. And then I went to work.
Did you get to find many of your close friends from service?
Actually, I've only found a couple. Like I mentioned before, I found one guy down in Delray Beach. But with the internet and the web the way it is, it's not very hard to find people. You know, from Facebook to different search engines, you can find basically anybody you like.
Did you ever find like an instructor maybe that maybe you didn't like and then?
Nah, I wish I could.
Okay. Did you get to join any veterans organizations?
Well, yeah, I'm with the VA now. I'm actually with the VFW also, which is Veterans of Foreign Wars, which I'm not a veteran of foreign war, but I was able to join the organization. I do volunteer work at the Veterans Administration Hospital. I go into the nursing home and speak with the old guys, speak with the younger guys that's in there too. There's a lot of people in nursing homes that don't have a home or a family, and they live in the hospital. So I find some enjoyment out of going in, just making them smile, and just say hello.
As a veteran yourself, and from veterans early on, such as the Vietnamese War, that were mistreated, were you ever very compassionate towards them, or like from being a veteran yourself?
Very compassionate. I work at the VA hospital. I just stopped working there a couple of weeks ago, and I see guys coming in every day, and it's really saddening to see the mental conditions that are so prevalent with the war veterans, wartime veterans. I mean, from the older guys in Vietnam to the younger guys that are coming back from this Iraqi war, and it's really sad. You have some guys, you know, to put it bluntly, are very just crazy. And I don't think that the government is doing exactly what needs to be done to assist these guys and reintegrating them back into society. You know, I see it every day. Hundreds of guys every day walking through the hospital doors, and it's really sad. You know, the devastation that these wars have caused on the people. And you never know. You have people walking up and down the street every day. A lot of homeless people, drug abuse victims, victims of alcoholism. And I call them victims because that was their escape. Drug abuse, alcoholism, from this trauma that they went through is traumatic. Going into war is traumatic. You know, it's very evident.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I don't think my experience did. My military experience had the influence on my thinking that working in this hospital does or did. You know, when you're in, you're not really seeing it. If you haven't experienced war, you're not really seeing it because it's just like a job. You know, you go to work and you get off. You go to work and you get off, and you see these people, but you don't really know. But working in that doggone hospital, I'm seeing it on a daily basis, and you know, I'm anti-war. I tell you the truth, I'm anti-war. I'm not an advocate of going to bomb and kill. Though I was a trained killer, that's just talking to somebody the other day. That's what I was hired to do and trained to do. I was telling my girlfriend, and she was like, "Don't say that." I said, "But it's a reality." And today, my thinking is totally different. You know, I do not advocate war. I don't. It's sure we have to have a military, but everything possible not to go to war. Everything possible not to go to war. They don't see, the public doesn't really see. If you take yourself, for instance, and sit at the entranceway of that hospital and just look at the maimed people that come through. No arms, no legs, bruised and battered. Then you see the full effect. You get a full view of what's really going on, what's really happening. And thousands of kids are dying, and it's affecting thousands of families. You know, I'm not even sure if the numbers that they send back are right. Let's move on, because I'm getting kind of angry now.
Well, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
How do you feel about how do you feel about women being in the military?
I think that women should be able to join the military and do any job in the military. Let me see. Most jobs entail thinking, and women can think because they have brains. No different. I mean, it's certain things that I don't think it's a job that a woman can do, that a man can do. I don't think so. But you know, I'd rather have a woman next to me in a foxhole pulling the trigger than superhero over here buffed up that's scared to pull the trigger, if that's what it came to. So, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Did you see a lot of women come back from the military, same kind of conditions?
I see them all the time.
Come back from the war? Or?
Yes, one of the girls that was supposed to be interviewed here, she just came back from Iraq.
Really?
Yes, and she has a story to tell. You know.
So, okay.
So I mean, I don't know if I know we're different emotionally. Men and women take things different emotionally. I don't know if coming back from a war situation affects men or women in a different way. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, but I think that women they can do it. They can do it. It's necessary. Need be.
Were you in contact with your family while you were gone? A great deal?
Oh, yeah, constantly. They didn't have, the internet wasn't up and running like it is now, but we talked on the phones a lot from sea. It was a real secretive type thing going. It was like shortwave radio. You know, so I was able to keep in contact and wrote a lot of letters. Did a lot of writing.
What were how many continents did you say you visited?
6.
What were they?
North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia.
What was one thing unique about each one, if you didn't stay there very long?
Okay. Africa, I saw a lot of people that looked like me, and it wasn't what you see on the news. I mean, especially in South Africa, you know, you see these bustling cities, and you don't see the huts and the tents. Sure, they're there out in the bush, but it's not what you see. It's not what you really see. South America, the mountains and the rainforests. Australia, the Aborigines. I hung out with the Aborigines for a while, which are Africans that ended up through slavery, running from slavery, ended up in Australia. Asia, Indonesia, black Asians. That was funny to me. Yeah, because we're everywhere. Let's see, and the food there was good too. China, the technology in China, Hong Kong. I had never been to a place that was more powerful and more awesome than New York, more awing than New York. And New York is a big city, right? You think New York, but Hong Kong was amazing. Where else? Where didn't I say?
Europe?
Oh, Europe. Europe is like the United States. It's like here. The same people that are there are here. The cultures are basically the same.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you'd like to add that you can think of?
No, not really. Any more questions?
Okay, well, we want to thank you very much for spending this time with us and giving us this interview that we're going to be able to share with the rest of the world forever.
I appreciate you having me.
Okay.
Thank you.